The Harry Potter movies have amassed millions of followers around the world. Not only do they bring joy to fans who already read and loved the books, but they introduced an entire new generation of people to the wizarding world. But unfortunately, when fitting thousands of pages of a story into a theatrical runtime, sacrifices have to be made. And most of the time, those sacrifices were key characters. While the movies put the spotlight on the main trio and their friends, the book introduces us to dozens of extra characters who add depth to the world that we love so much. And it's a shame that we couldn't see all of them on the big screen. So in today's video, join me as I reveal 11 key characters from the Harry Potter books that just didn't make the cut in the movies. And together, we can give these legends the respect they deserve. My name is Gibby, and welcome back to Fact or Fantasy, your portkey to all things Harry Potter. If you enjoy breakdowns of the wizarding world, be sure to like and subscribe, as well as share with a Harry Potter loving friend. As always, I want to give a huge shout out to Jason, Joshua, Timothy, RoboSteve, and the rest of my incredible Patreon and YouTube members who help make these videos possible every month. But now, let's not waste any more time and jump right into our first character, who we meet right at the beginning of Harry's epic journey throughout the wizarding world. Of course, I am talking about Peeves the Poltergeist. Cutting Peeves was a decision that baffled everyone, largely because he is woven into the fabric of Hogwarts from day one. To understand why this cut hurts, you have to understand what a poltergeist actually is in Rowling's world. Unlike ghosts who are transparent imprints of departed souls, a poltergeist is an indestructible spirit of chaos. Peeves has been at Hogwarts since its founding. He pretty much came with the building. He is solid, he looks a little like a jester with bright clothes and a bell-covered hat, and he can physically interact with the world. In the Philosopher's Stone, he is the first real obstacle the first years face. He doesn't just float through walls, he throws walking sticks at students, pulls rugs out from under them, and writes rude words on the blackboard. He has a tangible presence, and he is one of the reasons that the first years are terrified to step out of line. He even catches Harry, Ron, and Hermione sneaking around the castle multiple times, which means that he is effectively a chaotic third party in the school's security system. But his role gets crucial in the Chamber of Secrets. A key moment from the book that never made the movie is when Harry gets hauled to Filch's office for tracking mud into the castle. Nearly headless Nick, who is trying to help Harry, convinces Peeves to drop a vanishing cabinet directly over the office to create a diversion. That cabinet? It's the same vanishing cabinet that Montague gets shoved into in the Order of the Phoenix, and the same one that Draco Malfoy spends all of the Half-Blood Prince repairing to smuggle Death Eaters into the castle. So pretty much, Peeves literally sets up the climax of the 6th book in the 2nd book by breaking the cabinet. It's one of the best Easter eggs in the entire series. By The Prisoner of Azkaban, we see Peeves' interaction with the teachers. He respects Dumbledore, mostly, and he fears the Bloody Baron. But he has a fun dynamic with Lupin. When Peeves is trying to stuff gum into a keyhole, Lupin uses the spell Wadiwasi to shoot the gum up Peeves' nose. It's a hilarious moment that establishes Lupin's cool competence, something the movie had to rush through. However, Peeves becomes a legitimate hero in the Order of the Phoenix. When Dolores Umbridge takes over, the entire school rebels, but none harder than Peeves. When Fred and George make their legendary exit on their broomsticks, they pause to give one final order to Peeves, essentially telling him to take their place as the general troublemakers of the school. Of course, Peeves has no problem filling this role. He then spends the rest of the book fulfilling that order with military precision. He juggles burning torches over the students' heads, he floods the 2nd floor, he releases tarantulas in the Great Hall, and much, much more. He makes Umbridge's life a living nightmare, to the point where she tries to sign an expulsion decree for a spirit that cannot be expelled. Even Professor McGonagall gets in on the fun. In one famous scene, she whispers to Peeves that it unscrews the other way, while he's trying to loosen a chandelier to drop on Umbridge. Finally, in Deathly Hallows, Peeves actively defends the castle. During the Battle of Hogwarts, he isn't hiding. He zooms over the Death Eaters, dropping Snargloth pods, which are essentially giant biting tubers, onto their heads. After the battle is won, he sings a victory song. We did it, we bashed them, we Potters the one, and Voldy's gone moldy, so now let's have fun. Peeves is one of the greatest characters from the books, and he is involved in almost every year of Harry's life. Fun fact, the movies did actually try to include him, but Rick Mayall, the actor cast to portray him, was just too funny on set. It took the spotlight off of the kids, as well as made it impossible to film with the kids laughing constantly. Ultimately though, Peeves' scenes had to be cut in that first movie since they just didn't fit the vibe, and therefore he got cut from the entire series. But now moving on to our next character, we head into the Forbidden Forest to talk about Firenze. While the first movie gives us a brief cameo of a centaur in the shadows, the books give us a complex character caught between two worlds. In the Philosopher's Stone, Firenze saves Harry from Voldemort, but the scene in the book is much longer. He allows Harry to ride on his back to safety, an act which his fellow centaurs, Bane and Ronan, consider a shameful act of servitude like a mule. Firenze engages in a fierce philosophical debate with them, arguing that he will set himself against the stars if it means fighting what is lurking in the forest. This establishes the centaurs not just as creatures, but as a proud, ancient culture with their own astronomy, rigid laws, and deep prejudice against wizards. But his biggest role, and one that got completely cut from the films, comes in the Order of the Phoenix. When Umbridge sacks Professor Trelawney in the courtyard, a scene the movie did include, Dumbledore has to act fast. He doesn't want the Ministry appointing a new teacher, so he introduces the new divination professor, Firenze. This is a massive scandal that completely shocks Umbridge. In the books, Harry walks into the divination classroom on the ground floor to find it transformed into a mossy forest clearing, with trees growing out of the stone and the ceiling mimicking the sky. Firenze stands there, battered and bruised. We learn that the other centaurs tried to beat him to death for accepting Dumbledore's offer. He has been exiled from his herd. He has given up his home, his family, and his way of life to help Dumbledore educate young wizards. For the next couple of books, Firenze is a regular professor. His lessons are fascinating. He burns sage and mallowsweet, telling the students to look for signs in the smoke, but constantly warns them that human perception is flawed. He tells them that deciphering the wishes of heaven is no game for humans, and admits that even centaurs can be wrong. He teaches humility, he brings a completely different cultural perspective to magic, critiquing wizarding arrogance, and there is also a fantastic subplot where Trelawney is reinstated, and she and Firenze have to split the classes. She despises him, calling him the horse, while he treats her with distant pity. It provides great comic relief, but also deepens the lore of the entire school. And finally, in the last book, Firenze fights in the Battle of Hogwarts. He doesn't stay on the sidelines. He is wounded by Death Eaters and is found lying in the Great Hall, unable to stand and trembling. The fact that he fought for a castle full of humans who often look down on him completes his arc of sacrifice. Unfortunately, his exclusion from the films flattens the rich creature politics that Rowling built up, making the wizarding world feel a lot more human-centric than it actually was. Our third entry is one of the coolest Weasley brothers, Charlie Weasley. The movies essentially erased him. We see a blurry photo of him in The Prisoner of Azkaban, and he's mentioned in passing. But he is never a character. In the books, Charlie is the family's connection to the wider, wilder, magical world. He was the Gryffindor Seeker before Harry, a legend in his own right, who gave up a pro-Quidditch career to study dragons in Romania. In the Philosopher's Stone book, he is the logistical solution to the Norbert problem. In the movie, they have an off-screen solution, but in the book, Harry and Hermione have to coordinate a midnight handoff. They exchange letters with Charlie, who arranges for his friends to fly into Hogwarts airspace under the cover of darkness. Harry and Hermione have to drag a crate with the heavy ridgeback all the way up to the tallest tower to meet Charlie's friends. It's a high-tension chapter that establishes Charlie as the reliable, cool older brother who fixes things from afar. Then Charlie pops back up in the Goblet of Fire. He arrives at the Burrow for the Quidditch World Cup, described as stocky, with a broad, good-natured face, skin weathered from the sun, and arms covered with burns and scratches. He helps repair the Burrow before the wedding in the Deathly Hallows, but in Book 4, he is there for the Triwizard Tournament. He is the dragon handler. He is the one who shows Hagrid the dragons in the forest, which allows Harry to find out about the first task. He is on the sidelines during the task, ready to cast extinguishing spells if anything goes wrong. But his most vital contribution is in the Deathly Hallows. He is a member of the Order of the Phoenix, but Dumbledore makes a strategic choice. He doesn't keep Charlie in Britain. He tasks Charlie with staying in Romania to recruit foreign wizards to the cause. This was a huge piece of world building, as it showed that the war against Voldemort had international stakes, and that Dumbledore was building a global coalition. And at the very end, during the Battle of Hogwarts, Charlie gets his hero moment. When the defenders are surrounded with Death Eaters closing in, and Harry is thought to be dead, a fresh army charges over the horizon. It is Slughorn, yes, but leading the charge is Charlie Weasley. He arrives with hundreds of reinforcements. Families of the students, residents of Hogsmeade, and friends that he's rallied. He breaks the Death Eater lines and turns the tide of the battle. By cutting Charlie, the movies not only lose a Weasley, which is a crime in itself, but they lose that sense of scope, that help that came from the outside world because of the work the Order did in the shadows. Now, moving on to some characters who appear later in the series, we have to talk about Ludo Bagman. In the Goblet of Fire, Ludo is the head of the Department of Magical Games and Sports, and he is a fascinating study in mediocrity and corruption. He is a washed-up, retired pro Quidditch player who is now paunchy and wearing robes that are far too tight. He is a jovial, loud gambling addict who serves as the primary red herring for the fourth book. Throughout the Goblet of Fire, Ludo is constantly present. He is the commentator at the Quidditch World Cup, he is the judge for the Triwizard Tournament, and he is constantly, suspiciously, trying to help Harry cheat. He offers him advice on the Golden Egg, he pulls him aside to give him tips on the maze, and much more. He even gives Harry unearned high scores, like a 10 on the first task when Harry got hurt. Readers are led to believe that he must be the bad guy, or perhaps he's under the Imperious Curse. But the truth is much more pathetic and human. He actually bet a fortune on Harry winning the tournament so he could pay off some massive debts that he had to a group of goblins. This subplot is crucial not only because he's a red herring, but because he's also attached to Fred and George. At the World Cup, the twins bet their entire life savings, 37 galleons, that Ireland would win but Crumb would catch the snitch. Bagman takes the bet and gives them great odds on it because it's so unlikely. But lo and behold, Ireland wins and Crumb catches the snitch. When the twins win, Bagman pays them in leprechaun gold, which vanishes after a few hours. The twins spend the entire book trying to corner Bagman to get their money back. They send him letters, try to talk to him at Hogwarts and the Three Broomsticks, and he continually dodges them. At the end of the book, after Harry wins, Bagman flees the country because the goblins are after him. Harry, realizing that the twins got scammed out of their entire life savings, gives his 1,000-galleon Triwizard winnings to Fred and George. He forces them to take it, saying, "I don't want it and I don't need it, but I could do with a few laughs." This is the seed money for Weasley's Wizard Wheezes. Without the Bagman subplot, the logic of how two poor teenagers funded a massive business empire in Diagon Alley is completely lost. Now moving on, tied directly to the Crouch family drama in the Goblet of Fire is our fifth missing character, and that is Winky the House Elf. While Dobby represents the desire for freedom, Winky represents the tragic reality of indoctrination. She is the Crouch family elf, and we first meet her in the top box at the Quidditch World Cup. She is sitting alone, terrified of heights and covering her eyes. She claims that she's saving a seat for Mr. Crouch, but later we learn the horrifying truth. She was guarding Barty Crouch Jr., who is sitting there under an invisibility cloak. When the Dark Mark is cast, Harry finds Winky in the bushes with his stolen wand. Barty Crouch Sr. arrives and, in a fit of public rage, ruthlessly fires her. Unlike Dobby, Winky screams and cries because she cannot fathom living in freedom. She sees it not as a reward, but as the ultimate disgrace. Eventually, she finds work at Hogwarts along with Dobby, but she doesn't cope. We see her in the kitchens, sitting on a stool by the fire, clothes filthy, drinking herself into a stupor on butterbeer. The trio see her weeping constantly for her master, even though she is no longer enslaved to him. Her story is one of the catalysts for Hermione's political awakening. Hermione sees Winky and realizes that the system is fundamentally broken. She starts SPEW, the Society for the Promotion of Elfish Welfare, because of Winky. And in the end, Winky is key to solving the entire mystery. She is the one who confirms Crouch Jr.'s story. She reveals the years of nursing him while he was under the Imperious Curse, and the struggle to keep him hidden. The movies turn the Crouch mystery into a simple he escaped Azkaban plot, completely erasing the emotional core of a mother figure elf who loved a Death Eater boy more than she loved herself. And ultimately, Winky adds a layer of moral grayness to the wizarding world that the movies simply skipped. And speaking of a tragedy, at number 6, we have Neville's family. In the Order of the Phoenix book, there is a pivotal chapter called Christmas on the Closed Ward. Harry, Ron, and Hermione visit St. Mungo's Hospital to see Arthur Weasley. While looking for tea, they accidentally stumble into the Janus Thicky ward for permanent spell damage. There, they see Neville and his formidable grandmother, Augusta. Neville is mortified to be caught at the hospital. He has never told his friends the full truth about his parents. Harry already knew, but Ron and Hermione didn't. They see Frank and Alice Longbottom. They aren't dead, they're physically there, but their minds have been destroyed by Bellatrix Lestrange's Cruciatus Curse. The description we read of Neville's mother is haunting. Her face was thin and worn, hair was wispy and white, but with a sweet, unfocused smile. The trio watch as she shuffles over to Neville and hands him a Drubel's blowing gum wrapper. Augusta Longbottom speaks sharply and says that Neville doesn't want that. But as they walk away, Harry watches Neville look back and then quietly slip the wrapper into his pocket. Because although it's trash, it's one of his only connections to the mother who no longer knows his name. This single moment does more for Neville's character development than 5 movies combined. It explains his fear, his pressure to live up to his father, and the quiet, heartbreaking love that fuels his bravery. It explains why he practices the disarming charm so hard in the Room of Requirement. He is fighting for them. And on top of his parents, let's not forget about Augusta Longbottom. The movies paint her as a joke in a funny hat, a mean grandma. But in the books, she is a force of nature. She pushes Neville hard, often too hard, but she does love him. In the Deathly Hallows, when Death Eaters are trying to kidnap her to leverage Neville, she fights back. She puts the Auror Dawlish in the hospital and goes on the run. Eventually, she arrives at the Battle of Hogwarts and is proud of her grandson, who has come into his own as a leader of the Resistance, just like his parents. Unfortunately, because of time constraints, we're robbed of this small but deep subplot in the books. Jumping into the Half-Blood Prince, we have our 7th missing character, who is Hepzibah Smith. The 6th movie famously cut out the majority of the pensieve memories, turning the Horcrux hunt into a guessing game where Harry can somehow hear the Horcruxes. In the book, the hunt is based on cold, hard detective work, and Hepzibah Smith is a key witness. Dumbledore shows Harry a memory from a house elf who served Hepzibah. The memory shows a young Tom Riddle shortly after he left Hogwarts. Riddle is working for Borgin & Burkes, a job that surprised his teachers. His job is to persuade people to part with their magical treasures, and he's very good at it. We see him visit Hepzibah, a very wealthy, very elderly, and very vain descendant of Helga Hufflepuff. The scene we read about in the book is deeply uncomfortable. Hepzibah is wearing robes of frantic pink, and she is clearly smitten with this handsome young Riddle. She flirts with him, and Riddle plays along perfectly, using his charm to manipulate her. Eventually, she decides to show him her greatest secrets. First is the cup of Helga Hufflepuff, and second is the heavy golden locket of Salazar Slytherin. 2 days after showing Tom Riddle these artifacts, Hepzibah Smith is found dead. Her house elf, Hoki, confesses to poisoning her cocoa by mistake, but Dumbledore reveals the truth to Harry. Riddle poisoned her, stole the cup and locket, and modified the house elf's memory to take the blame. This scene is vital. It shows us exactly how Voldemort acquired 2 very important wizarding artifacts that he eventually turned into Horcruxes. And more than that, it shows us more of Tom Riddle's character. He didn't just use brute force, he used charm, flattery, and the loneliness of others to get what he wanted. He is a predator. Without this scene, the audience never truly sees the terrifying, manipulative charisma of the young Tom Riddle. And speaking of Tom Riddle, that leads us into our 8th missing character, who is kind of not one person, but 3. These 3 people are the Gaunt family: Merope, Morphin, and the father Marvolo. The Gaunt family history is arguably one of the biggest omissions in the entire film franchise. In yet another cut pensieve memory in The Half-Blood Prince, Harry and Dumbledore travel back to the House of Gaunt. We see a shack near Little Hangleton with a dead snake nailed to the door. Inside lives Marvolo Gaunt and his son Morphin, the last descendants of Salazar Slytherin. They are inbred, violent, speak almost exclusively in Parseltongue, and live in squalor. And then there is Merope, a bullied, abused, and terrified daughter. Her father often attacks her, and her brother taunts her. She is a squib-like witch because her magic has been suppressed by years of trauma. But she is far from perfect. We see her desperate obsession with the rich muggle who rides past on his horse, Tom Riddle Sr. After her father and brother are arrested and sent to Azkaban, Merope is free. She brews a love potion and uses it to enslave Riddle. Soon after, they run away to London and she becomes pregnant. But this is where her plan fell apart. Dumbledore theorizes that Merope felt guilty or convinced herself that Tom would love her for real now since they were having a baby. But shocker, he didn't. He woke up, horrified and traumatized, and abandoned her instantly. Merope was left destitute in London. She sold Slytherin's locket, a priceless artifact, for a mere 10 galleons just to buy food. She even refused to use magic to save herself, and she died right after giving birth to her son, Tom Marvolo Riddle. This backstory is the thematic key to the entire series. It explains why Voldemort is the way he is. Dumbledore explains to Harry that most likely because Voldemort was conceived under a love potion, he is physically incapable of understanding or feeling love. He is literally the product of a loveless union. Cutting Merope and the Gaunt family from the movies not only removed Voldemort's origin story, but it also cut out the origin of the locket and the ring which belonged to Marvolo Gaunt. Now moving on to number 9, we have a duo that deserve a movie of their own, Kreacher and Regulus Black. The movies reduced Kreacher to a grumpy servant who shuffles around in the background, but the books give him one of the most beautiful redemption arcs in the entire saga. In the Order of the Phoenix, Kreacher is nasty. He mutters racial slurs at Hermione and betrays Sirius to Narcissa Malfoy because Sirius treats him with disdain. Harry hates him, but in the Deathly Hallows, Harry learns the truth. In the book, Harry demands that Kreacher tell him about the locket, and we learn from the elf's perspective about Regulus Black, Sirius's younger brother, and how he was a Death Eater. We learn that after joining, he volunteered Kreacher to help the Dark Lord with a specific task. Voldemort took Kreacher to the cave with the Inferi and forced him to drink the Emerald Potion, and then left him to die. But Voldemort forgot about one thing. House elf magic is different, and when Regulus called to him, Kreacher was able to apparate out of the cave. Horrified by what Voldemort had done and realizing the locket was a Horcrux, Regulus turned traitor. Kreacher tells Harry that Regulus ordered him to take him to the cave, and instead of forcing his house elf to do the dirty work, Regulus drank the burning potion himself. He swapped the lockets, placing the fake one in the basin, and ordered Kreacher to leave him, save himself, and destroy the real locket. And as he left the cave, Kreacher watched his beloved master get dragged under the water by the Inferi. Kreacher then spent years in a vicious cycle of trying to destroy the locket and then punishing himself when he failed. When Harry learns this, his perspective shifts. He gives Kreacher the fake locket that Regulus left behind, and Kreacher collapses in tears. From that moment on, he is transformed. He cleans Grimmauld Place, he starts cooking excellent French onion soup, and he treats Harry, Ron, and Hermione with respect. But the climax for Kreacher is at the Battle of Hogwarts. In the books, we read about an amazing sight. Kreacher leading an army of house elves from the kitchens as he wears the fake locket bouncing on his chest. He wields a meat cleaver and screams in his bullfrog voice, "Fight! Fight for my master, defender of the house elves! Fight the Dark Lord in the name of brave Regulus." This story is so good that I actually made an entire video all about it, so you can check the description to watch that and learn all about Kreacher. And by the way, you might see some other links down there if I happen to have other videos about the characters in these lists. But anyway, let's move on to missing character number 10, which is once again a duo, Andromeda and Ted Tonks. You know Nymphadora Tonks, but her parents are the missing link in the Black family tree. In the Deathly Hallows during the Battle of the Seven Potters, Harry and Hagrid crash land in the garden of a safe house. They don't go to the burrow like the movie shows. In the book, Harry is dizzy and injured, and when a woman approaches him, he instinctively draws his wand and tries to curse her. Why? Because she looks identical to Bellatrix Lestrange. She has the same heavy-lidded eyes and the same dark hair. The only difference is that her eyes are kind, not mad. This is Andromeda Black. She is the middle sister between Bellatrix and Narcissa, but unlike them, she married a Muggle-born, Ted Tonks, and was burned off the family tapestry for being a blood traitor. This visual similarity is a powerful storytelling device. It emphasizes that we are defined by our choices, not by our genetics, and Andromeda proves that you can be a Black and still be good, just like Regulus and Sirius. Ted Tonks is a delight in the books. He is a jovial, pot-bellied man who patches up Harry's injuries. He calls Voldemort you-know-who, but refuses to be terrified. Later in the book, when the Ministry falls, Ted goes on the run because he refuses to register as a Muggle-born. Harry actually overhears him, Dean Thomas, and Griphook by a fire as they're hunting Horcruxes in the Deathly Hallows. And we hear him keeping the spirits high even in the darkest of times. Unfortunately, in the Deathly Hallows, we learn that Ted is caught and killed by Snatchers. So Andromeda is left behind. By the end of the war, she has lost her husband, her daughter, and her son-in-law Remus Lupin, which means that she is left to raise her grandson, Teddy Lupin, alone. The Tonks family don't get too involved in the story overall, but they're brought up from time to time to remind us of the effects that the war has. After all, Harry isn't the only one that went through tough times. Everybody suffered during Voldemort's second rise, and Andromeda represents the civilian cost of the war, the quiet survivor who gave up everything for love and lost it all to hatred. Finally, we end with a portrait who had more agency than most living characters, Phineas Nigellus Black. Phineas was the least popular headmaster that Hogwarts ever had, and he had two portraits, one that hung in Dumbledore's office and one that hung in Grimmauld Place. And because he can travel between the portraits, he acts as the Order of the Phoenix's reluctantly snarky email service. In the Order of the Phoenix book, he is the one who delivers the message that Arthur Weasley has been attacked by Nagini, saving his life. He is constantly making snide comments, calling Harry arrogant and Hermione mudblood, though Dumbledore reprimands him. Something to remember is that the portraits in the headmaster's office at Hogwarts have to obey the current headmaster. So although Phineas hated the Order and definitely would have sided with Voldemort, he had to do what Dumbledore told him, which adds some great context to this next part. You see, in the Deathly Hallows, he becomes indispensable. When the trio goes on the run, Hermione steals his portrait from Grimmauld Place and stuffs it in her beaded bag. But she makes sure to blindfold him so that he can't spy on their location. After all, the trio believe that Snape is bad, and since he is the headmaster, that means that Phineas is free to do the Dark Lord's will. Throughout the camping trip, they bring him out for news. He acts as their only window into what is happening at Hogwarts under Snape's regime. He tells them about Ginny, Neville, and Luna trying to steal the sword, and much more. However, there's a twist. After all, we know that Snape was secretly working for Dumbledore, and in the book, he needs to find Harry to give him the sword of Godric Gryffindor. He can't give away his cover to Voldemort, so he can't reach out to Harry directly, but he can ask Phineas. When Hermione accidentally mentions that they're in the Forest of Dean while the bag is open, Phineas hears it. He travels back to the headmaster's office and tells Snape. And this is the only reason that Snape knows where to send his Patronus. Without Phineas Nigellus Black, Harry never gets the sword, the locket isn't destroyed, and the quest fails. He was the reluctant, unsung grumpy hero of the entire camping trip. Watching his slow, grudging respect for the trio grow, eventually ceasing to use the slur against Hermione, is a subtle character arc that plays out entirely within a picture frame. But anyway, that wraps up today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please make sure to like and subscribe as that greatly helps to support the channel. If you have any other characters you'd like for me to cover, drop a comment below, and be sure to look at the links in the description for videos on some of the key characters that we discussed today. Have a great week, and I'll see you in the next video.